let's talk knives.
Hey yo, this is Dash.
Yeah. Hey yo, this is Dash, and today we're going to quickly talk about some knives. A lot of folks, because of the fact that I use knives when preparing barbecue in my videos, a lot of folks ask me about the knives. So let me do a quick rundown of the most popular knives that I use while I am doing barbecue. I'll explain when I use them, how I use them, how to maintain them, and we can go from there. First and foremost, let's talk quickly about brands. Dexter is one of the most popular brands in the US for food service and knives. I have a couple Dexter knives, but these Dexter knives that I have are they were given to me, so they're kind of beat up and I don't actually use them. They reside at the bottom of the drawer. So this first knife, I believe, is actually a bread knife due to the serrations and the curve here, but hopefully you can see that. It says Dexter, and this knife, it sits in the bottom of not even a top tier drawer, second tier drawer. This also is a Dexter. This is a 8-inch chef's knife. Okay, if you wanted the model number on this one, it's V145-8, and it says part number. Oh no, it's patent. All right. Now, one of the things about the Dexter knives, you can see clearly on them that they say NSF. When you see a knife that has NSF on it, it means that the handle is sealed very well and there's no food particles or anything like that that can get into the handle that you'll have to worry about in the future. These are apparently very, hard, good steel. They sharpen very well. They take to a lot of abuse and can be sharpened again. Again, this 8-inch chef's knife, someone gave to me, and it was beat up when they gave to me, so I really didn't use it. I just said, oh, thank you. All right, so now, speaking of chef's knives, this is a knife I got from the restaurant. I believe I got it from the Restaurant Depot. And this also is a NSF knife, right? And this is another 8-inch chef's knife. I use this, now it says it's stain-free, high-carbon German steel. I use this knife a lot when slicing vegetables. You guys have probably seen me use this in slicing vegetables. If I can find some videos of me using each of these knives or a clip of me using each of these knives, I'll try to get them in the video so you can see them in use. But I've used this 8-inch knife is what I usually use to slice, like I said, slice up my vegetables, my peppers, potatoes, carrots, other things along those lines. So this is a 8-inch chef's knife. Moving from the 8-inch chef's knife, we have a 10-inch chef's knife. This also, like I said, I do believe I got it from the Restaurant Depot, and I use this knife primarily for when I'm chopping chicken. So when I have the when I take the chicken, the boneless, skinless thighs, the boneless, skinless breast, I take this, and this one with the high amount of distance and leverage, it makes it very easy to chop things up, and I can put a decent amount of like two chicken breasts, or like 2 or 3 thighs, and chop them all up at the same time. Now the next knife I have is one of the knives that's been in my drawer, my stable, for a very, I know I'm messing with you guys, a long time. This is another one that I got from the Restaurant Depot. This is a Lasting Cut brand blade, and it also is NSF, and this is a 12-inch serrated, okay, you see the serrations there, serrated meat slicer. This knife I have had probably for 2.5, maybe 3 years, and it is the workhorse of, it was the workhorse of my brisket slicing, turkey slicing, lamb slicing, any large meat that I had, and when I say turkey breast, any large meat that I had, this used to get it done. This was the one that I used to get it done. I primarily use this knife now solely when I am slicing the brisket point. Because of the fat, it actually helps to, and the serrations help to rip through the fat and be able to cut down and into it, so it makes it a little easier to get through that meat. Using the serrations on the flat will leave knife marks. So that's why I've gotten away from using a serrated knife on the flat, and I'll use it only on the point. Hopefully that makes sense to some of you guys. And next, all right, we're gonna talk about this is a flat blade or a single blade. This is another lasting cut. Also a knife I got from the Restaurant Depot. Now this knife here, it was less than $15. I believe it was like $12. And again, this is a 12-inch single blade, or I think, I'm not exactly sure if it's called a single blade or a flat blade or a straight. I apologize, I don't know the technical term of this particular knife, but it is a meat slicer. Again, 12-inch meat slicer. It's very comfortable in the hand, and you know, you just have to pull this knife through whatever it is you're cutting, and the knife will do the work for you. All you have to do is keep it sharp. And this is another one of my favorite knives, and this is another workhorse in my kitchen. This is I believe it's a 6-inch. Yes, this is a 6-inch boning knife, right? And what happens here is I use this knife primarily. I used to use it to cut the chickens in half and other things like that, because the knife is so sharp, it goes through those bones with very little effort. But more often than not nowadays, I use this to trim brisket, to trim the pork shoulder, opening up packages of meat, trimming if I'm doing like a boneless, skinless, or excuse me, if I'm doing chicken thighs. Like recently I did some chicken thighs, and the skin was still on the chicken thighs. I was able to cut the skin off and the fat off with this boning knife. And it comes in handy. And it comes in handy not only when I'm doing barbecue. My wife actually goes and grabs this knife primarily, or I have a couple of these. She grabs one of these knives whenever we have steak or something along those lines. It's a nice size. Again, it's just a 6-inch knife, and it's got a straight edge, no serrations on it, and it works very well. Again, another one of those knives that you keep sharp. This also was gotten from the Restaurant Depot. This one was less than $10. I think this was $8 for this knife. All right, last but not least, this isn't technically a knife, but you probably get it in and around, or see it in or around with the knives. This, I don't even know what this thing is called. I don't know if it's, like I said, I don't know the exact terminology, the name of this. I got this actually off of a restaurant supply truck. I've been looking for one like this for a while. You can use this, you can actually use this to chop things. You would just need to put a knife edge on it. Right now there's a straight edge, okay? And it's not sharp, but I have seen folks use this and they'll sharpen this up as a knife edge and actually use it to chop. What I use this blade for primarily is cleaning up my counter, okay? Or I'll use it primarily, and this is where I use it most, is cleaning my cutting boards. Oddly enough, I will use this to scrape up any residual, brisket cuttings, like lamb, any meat that puts a little bit of a mess on a cutting board. I'll use this to scrape it off and clean it up. And then I did a video a long time ago about how to clean the cutting board, and I use primarily one of the chef's knives to scrape the plastic cutting board clean. This one has been added, this knife has been added to the stable. It helps in cleaning up the cutting boards. So again, oh, how could I forget? You're probably asking yourself, well, how do you keep your knives sharp? This thing here. This is the most basic knife sharpener that I could find. I had very little experience with knife sharpeners or knife sharpening. I never really understood or knew the importance of keeping a knife sharp. You can't see it. My wife and I bought this Miracle Blade, set. Shoot, it's probably been, actually we bought this before I bought this house, so we've had this set for like 15 years probably. And I used to use these knives, and this is the good, 6-inch chef's knife or cutting knife, and it's very comfortable in hand. It's just these serrations here, hopefully you can see them, and the serrations there, these knives are just dull. They work, yes, but they're dull in comparison to the newer knives that I have. So back to the topic at hand. I never really knew or understood the purpose of, or never really understood, I never really knew how good having a sharp knife really was until I bought some knives brand new, and it changed the game. So it made me invest in a knife sharpener. Now this knife sharpener was like $5, $10 at the absolute most. Again, this was at the restaurant depot. When I bought one of these smaller knives, I was like, okay, the knife that I have like this was getting a little dull. How do I sharpen it? I bought one of these. I figured I would invest in one of these as opposed to like $100 or $200 professional knife sharpener, just because it's not that deep for me. I didn't know how good having a decent knife sharpener and having good sharp knives was. I do not have the sharpener that you see chefs use, and you see them, now these are not the blade side to each other. That I believe is called a steel. I don't have one of those. I'm just not there yet. If now, as far as sharpening knives, again, this little thing here, it does wonders. It is pretty basic. Again, it was $10 the absolute most, and I replace it once a year or so. All you do is hold it and you run. Let's run this one. You run your knife, and obviously you're gonna have this on the counter, but I will run my knife through here 10, 15 times, and it really does work. The key is getting the knife and keeping it sharp by running it through here. I really like this. This is by far become one of my favorite knives in the drawer, the knife drawer of the stable. But there you have it. Now your results may vary. You might have a particular knife that you use, or a different style, or a different handle, or different curvature to your blade. All those things work. It's just as far as what I've found I like to use are these knives. Now, are these knives, is this 10-inch chef's knife perfect? No. After a while, the handle is nice and good and it fits all around my hand. I think I would like to see it curved up some, just for ergonomics. I'm sure when I use this blade, typically, one of the problems I have is that the handle is straight on with the edge, and after a while, my hand gets fatigued. Other than that, I don't have a problem using that one for long distance, long periods. The slicing knife, again, because of the way that you're slicing into your meat on the cutting board, this one also isn't a problem to use for a long period of time. And those are just my opinion. So thanks again as always for watching. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, and I'll see you next time.